Hey, welcome to Filler. I am Joe.
And I'm Spindrift. Steve. Fuck. I'm Steve.
He keeps doing that, Spindrift. You gotta just give us the money already, because if you give us the money, he'll have his sense of self back.
Yeah. I won't just be completely obsessed with this delicious, entirely fruit juice and carbonated water based seltzer that honestly not enough people drink and would love to be spreading the word about and telling people how amazing it was, but like, you gotta pay me to do that. So
who wouldn't want to drink something called strawberry lemonade? Lemonade was good enough on its own, and then you put strawberries in it, like some kind of monster who wants us to enjoy lemonade more.
And the thing is, I had to pick between this flavor and Nojito, because you also do a spiked one, but you wanted to signify that this one is not one of the spiked ones. So instead of calling it Mojito for your lime and mint flavored one, you called it Nojito. And that is so...
It just makes sense.
It does. It's frustratingly brilliant. And honestly, you make me feel dumber for not having thought of something like that myself. So I will only accept apologies in the form of money.
Speaking of feeling dumber, this is the third part of our trilogy called The Blink Files.
This fucking band is rotting our brains, dude. For weeks, everything I've listened to is Blink-182 or YouTube videos, and like, I'm sorry, like, I know they were important to you and stuff, and like, I've learned to appreciate them a lot more, but like, we're getting into the bad shit now, and it's oh my god, when I finished listening to the whole discography, the first thing I put on was Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, and it felt like a breath of fresh air.
I woke up today mad because I still had to listen to 2 more albums, and my partner was like, "You all right?" And I said, "No, I got to go listen to 9 and One More Time." And she was like, "Oh." And with the most empathy a human can muster, she said, "That sounds really rough." And like, honestly, my level of roughness is listening to 9 and One More Time, but like, I was really mad. So with this being our last episode, it is called One More Time.
Because what else could it be called?
We're going to talk about the Matt Skiba records, California and 9, somehow named because it's their 9th album. How crazy.
Yeah.
And then
California, because they're from California. Really shows they were firing on all creative cylinders for this era.
If you can't tell how we're feeling about the band by now through our tone and our banter, we'll tell you exactly how we're feeling about it in the exact way that they textually sing about everything they feel and think. We're going to culminate with One More Time, their most recent album, and we listened to the deluxe edition again for everything. So that one came out in 2024, and we're recording this in February of 2025. And so as far as I know, they don't have any new music to catch up on. So thankfully, this is going to be our last episode on Blink-182.
Oh man, if this like gets popular, we're gonna have to do an episode every time a new Blink album comes out.
No, we won't. To start, we are talking about the 2017 album called California. Now, this comes 5 years after the Dogs Eating Dogs EP in 2012, which was their follow-up to their first reunion album called Neighborhoods. What's weird about California is that Tom DeLonge's not on it.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't give you a pinpointed reason why Tom is not on this album. I looked into it. They just couldn't nail him down for studio time. He was being very non-committal to get back in. He was focused on Angels and Airwaves. He was focused on his media company, To the Stars, which also has a nonprofit. Like he became this whole truly philanthropic to some extent entrepreneur when it comes to alien stuff during this time period.
I must have heard this wrong then, because I thought they kicked him out for going off the deep end with the alien shit, or they were just disagreeing about it. I thought that's why he didn't do this album.
I don't remember there being like a whole kicking out or whole falling out. I remember them asking, and through the media, they would be like, yeah, we haven't heard from him. And so then through management, they found out that he wasn't coming. And so they were like, all right, well, we want to progress. We want to continue. And so they called in Alkaline Trio's Matt Skiba. How familiar are you with the Alkaline Trio?
Well, I wasn't. I have never heard an Alkaline Trio song in my entire life before, so I had to do a little listening before getting into the Skiba era of Blink. So I could not do another deep dive. They've got a lot of records, too. They've been around almost as long as Blink. I saw that their first album was called God Damn It, spelled just like the Blink song Damn It.
Ooh,
and
conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and they're another pop-punk trio. So I did not have a high expectation going into it. I was just kind of expecting a Blink ripoff. So I went on Spotify. I know I should listen to literally any other streaming service, but I use Spotify and I listened to their top 10 songs on there. So I'm just going to go through my thoughts on these 10 songs in order so you can kind of see my condensed journey that I've gone on with Alkaline Trio. Mercy Me is just Blink without the spunk, Against Me without the fire, and the Gaslight Anthem without the literacy.
I like Mercy Me.
Okay. Stupid Kid. Stupid Kid. Oh my God, this really is Blink 180 Temu.
I also like Stupid Kid. Would not order it from Temu.
So Radio was wild because it seemed like it was actually getting at something. And then he says the line, shaking like a dog shitting razor blades. You want me to take that seriously?
I listen to radio.
Warbrain. I don't know, man. Why don't I buy this at all?
I don't know Warbrain.
Okay. Private Eye was the first one that was really working for me. Probably because it reminds me of Against Me in its attitude, lyricism, and storytelling. I remember Laura Jane Grace referencing Alkaline Trio, maybe going on tour with them in the past. So I know they predate Against Me for a little bit, but I don't know. I just, like, in these early Alkaline Trio records, all I could think of was, like, Against Me does this better. Like, they improved on what Alkaline Trio was doing. Yeah, anyway, then getting to the next song, Armageddon. Oh, wait, do you know Private Eye?
Nope, but you make me want to listen to it.
Okay. Armageddon, I zoned out the entire time. Calling All Skeletons is pretty fun. Time to Waste is big and theatrical, and I like it. I actually really liked that one.
Of all of the ones that you've mentioned, that's my favorite. That's the one that I always sing along to, and immediately I was like, oh, yeah, that's them.
Do you know We've Had Enough? That's the 10th one.
No, I don't know We've Had Enough.
So this one, I think, solidifies that they eventually found their footing as their own thing. Ironically, in a way, Blink never did. So that was a journey for me to go through all that Alkaline Trio stuff and come away from it actually kind of excited what Skiba could bring to the band as someone who formerly kind of was just trying to be Blink and is now has since found his own thing. Like, where on that scale is he going to land in replacing kind of an irreplaceable guy?
Sure. Do you think he ended up being able to replace Tom?
No. Look, he's a better singer than Tom.
Okay.
I think he's the best singer Blink has ever had.
You're not the first person to say that.
Yeah, I bet I'm not. But my biggest problem with the Skiba era is that they just do not know what to do with him. He does not add anything because he's not given the chance. I guess I was expecting that if someone's going to replace Tom DeLonge, he's going to be in the spot Tom was in, which is interplay with Mark and like providing a voice that complements Mark's. And instead, he's just kind of doing a lot of harmonies. We'll take a verse here and there. But for the most part, there's nothing about his personality coming through and nothing that's interesting to listen to in combination with Mark. So it was kind of a waste. It just seemed like they just wanted the Skiba that is trying to be Tom and not who he really is.
I got that vibe too, and I think that's why Skiba might be the most collaborative member of Blink-182, counting all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe even Scott Raynor being a similarly collaborative one if he knows when it's time to step away.
That's a good point.
You know, like I think that Skiba comes in and he tries to be Tom, but that's not because he's trying to be Tom. I feel like they asked him to be Tom.
Yes, that's exactly the feeling I get from this.
And when he is Tom, which I think he is really well on, which track was it? Home is Such a Lonely Place. That was their like sweet love song on California, which I thought like it overstayed its welcome at 3.5 minutes. But Matt Skiba and Mark Hoppus's voice intertwine like DNA on that song to me. Like that's where it's like, okay, they're doing the interplay that Mark and Tom do, but they don't do it enough.
Yeah.
That's truly like the one example I can give you in my notes. Otherwise, I think he just brings some edge to the band.
Yes, but when we get, I think it's more apparent in the deluxe version with like that second disc of songs. So we'll have to get to that later because I want to get through the main record first.
Well, I'm actually talking about the main record with the edge.
Okay.
Yeah, for Los Angeles, like granted, like
Okay. No, go ahead. Sorry.
He just had some spindrift in his throat. I'm not saying these songs are good. You'll see how I really feel because I think right now I haven't said much about California.
Yeah.
I think there's edge on Los Angeles. It leans into that darkness of Alkaline Trio. Okay. I think, funnily enough, so does San Diego. And it's these moments that I wish there was more darkness on this album. But at that point, maybe I just want to listen to Alkaline Trio and not really listen to Blink-182 embracing the darkness of Matt Skiba.
I'll get into those specific songs later, but to me, I can't believe I'm saying that this is not Blink-182. This is bad plus 44.
Interesting.
I think it's just
What crosses the line for you?
Mark is totally in control.
Okay.
So, like, why not just call it a plus 44 album? And at that point, you really don't even need Skiba because there's no role to fill there. You could just get any guitarist there.
I don't think it's a plus 44 album because it's bad.
I did say a bad plus 44 album because, no, their one album is very good, but this to me just reeks of Mark's. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I don't want to hear a bunch of guys in their 40s singing about how they are the kings of the weekend or teenage satellites. They are constantly on this record trying to force the idea down our throat and maybe even lying to themselves that they are still young. And it is maddening for a lot of reasons. For one, they keep referencing The Cure in this album. Like a couple times. She is out of her mind. They make a Cure reference by saying the head on the door lyric. And then in San Diego, another Cure reference. I think about going to see The Cure, like it's on the chorus. Los Angeles, I don't have much to say besides that is some butt rock bullshit. It is like, that's like Shine Down shit. It's so bad. Like the first 3 songs, I was like, okay, whatever. This is just like bland Blink. But then like this sucked. Like I was like, what? Where did butt rock come from? You know? And again, it's another 16 song album, and Sober just had to be heard. You know,
I think Sober is catchy in a syphilitic way.
Oh my God. Like, I don't know, man. That just, I'm gonna let you laugh at your own joke. Look, there's a song called Los Angeles on the album called California. There's a song called San Diego on the album called California. And then the title track is California. Again, like we referenced earlier, this album is called California because they're from California and they couldn't think of anything else. But
No, it's because they love California a lot.
they're not the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
No, but it sounds like they want to be.
Kind of. I don't know. But like, I wonder, trying to give some grace to a song like San Diego, is this a sequel or response to Los Angeles? Because you don't have to worry about going back to San Diego. You're Blink-182. You're fine. And also, San Diego's a beautiful city. It's not the worst thing in the world to have to go back there. I'm just baffled at these weird attempts to retroactively put Matt into Tom's place in the past. Because when they're doing these songs about how they're still young and still partying or whatever, and they're getting all nostalgic about the times when they were actually young and partying, Mark is like singing lines about how he was there on the curb of a Target with Matt. No, he wasn't. We know that. That was Tom.
Maybe it's like one of those additive retcons to shows where like the camera didn't pan all the way, but Matt Skiba is really there on the side. We just didn't see him.
But I don't know who it's more distasteful to, Tom or Skiba. To try and erase Tom from their past, or to just tell Skiba, you're just here to be the other guy. Like, it makes me so mad, and I keep looking for these hints of self-awareness that they know they're doing this, that they know that they are not young anymore, and it's just not there.
And that's my problem, is that there's a lack of self-awareness that they clearly are capable of having. Because they showed it to us, what was it, 14 years earlier on Untitled. There's more self-awareness on Neighborhoods, and that album sucked.
Yeah.
And they're able to do that 6 years ago, but then this happens. They're just trying to be old Blink. And that's how you know they're old men.
Yep.
Because they're trying to recapture former magic instead of just doing what feels natural. And if this is what feels natural, that sucks.
Yep.
This is not for me anymore then.
Which is, it brings up a good question of like, is it, like you said earlier, like you've grown since when you first heard them, and they were such an important band to you, and they still are nostalgically. So how do you weigh the value of a band that was important to you when they were making good music, and how much grace do you give them when they keep making music but it's not good anymore?
So I can answer that for this album, and it kind of stops at this album. The first few songs, I gave them grace. I like Cynical. I think Cynical's a fine song. No complaints. Bored to Death, I think that's an Alkaline Trio across with a Blink song. Fine. I don't care. She's Out of Her Mind. It sounds like Blink in 2017. That's fine. I'm good on talking about Los Angeles. We don't need to talk about that anymore. Sober, we don't need to talk about. Built This Pool, genuinely a fun song.
Yes.
It's all 17 seconds, and I remember when it came out, I was like, what's going to happen in this song? And it's so catchy for what it is. And what's the whole lyric? I want to see some naked dudes. That's why I built this pool.
Yeah.
Right? No notes.
I needed that, first of all, especially seeing a 16-song track list. I was like, oh, please tell me there's more of these, because they're funny. And it's the only thing that's giving me any joy on this record. It wouldn't work as well because the whole like, haha, I'm gay humor is so outdated. But that little bit at the end of, is that really it?
Yes.
That's what makes it funny.
Yep. Yeah, they nailed it on that one.
Yeah.
I still laughed at it. I thought that hit just like Happy Holidays, You Bastard for me. I do have to say, the moment we get up to Kings of the Weekend, I thought that sucked, and Skiba couldn't save it. That's where the album falls off. That's where my grace stops. And I think that's where my idea of Blink-182 starts to change.
Yeah.
And I feel like they had that gimmick of making the dick and the fart jokes. I thought that was great. They don't lean into it enough. They do it here with Built This Pool and Bohemian Rhapsody. But I didn't like Bohemian Rhapsody. I thought that felt like they were trying to cover their younger selves. instead of making a new song like that. Whereas Built This Pool was just a new stupid Blink song. Bohemian Rhapsody, it didn't work. It didn't land.
I think it only worked for me because the punchline is the very last word.
I don't even remember what it was.
There's something about you I can't quite put my finger in.
Yeah. And that's fair.
All right, you got me.
Right, you got me.
Yeah.
Right, they didn't get me on that one. Okay. And I think maybe the first time I listened to it, they might have gotten me. This time, Built This Pool still holds up, and Bohemian Rhapsody was like, this is dumb. This is where I like start to like kind of solidify my theory, or like it starts to come into focus about how I feel about them now. I think they take themselves too seriously
at being stupid.
Yes. 100%. And they've spent over, at this point, we're in 2025. So at this point, they've spent over 20 years trying to chase the magic of Enema. And we've talked about their successes for us in that way from Take Your Pants Off and on.
Yeah.
But this album misses completely. They know who they are. They're trying to capitalize on who they are because they think, and again, this is my theory, I think that's all they think they are in 2017 is those jokes. But they seem to forget they wrote Untitled.
Yeah.
They seem to forget they wrote the heavier songs or like the deeper songs. I did air quotes for people at home on Neighborhoods and on Dogs Eating Dogs. They seem to forget there is Plus 44. There is the Angels and Airwaves, which granted it's not a part of it, but all the Angels and Airwaves type songs Mark was on. So he knows how to do that kind of depth-ish.
Does he though? Or does Tom bring something out of him?
So this is also where I start to feel like I don't think I'm as much of a Mark guy as I used to be. Because, like you said, he's got the reins here, and my favorite parts of California are Matt Skiba.
Yeah.
And there's not enough of him.
Until the second disc.
Okay, you can talk more about the second disc because they really lost a lot of my attention with the back half of the record proper.
I don't know why I went into it. Like, I had the note, like, maybe disc 2 will be better. I don't know why I would even, like, cue myself up for that and be optimistic. But first song on the second disc, pretty good. Because it's Skiba-led.
Right.
It's Parking Lot. It's that Joni Mitchell reference. It's, which they got to quote with the references because they keep referencing bands that are better than them. But that also does have the exact thing I quoted about, like, Mark retroactively replacing Tom with Skiba, and that's really annoying. But the first two songs on disc 2 are better than all of disc 1. And like it's like all of the Skiba-led songs are the best things across both discs.
Which makes me start to think that Skiba didn't replace Tom. Mark replaced Tom, and Skiba replaced Mark. And there was this shift as Mark became the Blink-182, and without having whatever levity that Tom brings, the worst instincts of Mark are just free reign.
Yeah.
And Tom is not there to be the dumb one up against Mark's somewhat more serious one. And it's just not, the chemistry's not there.
No. I'm sure they like Skiba. I've seen that to this day they still bring him on for songs that that he did with them.
I think Skiba saved the band. That's what I'm saying. Like he's really a collaborative member of Blink-182 because he jumped in, he kept the ship afloat while Tom was doing whatever Tom things for a few albums. And then eventually, spoilers, I guess, when Tom comes back, Skiba's like, kept the seat warm and like gets up, no problems, no issues.
Yeah.
Skiba's the best member of Blink-182.
He is.
And he's not even in it.
Which just makes me wonder, why didn't they just make a Plus 44 album then? Like, why did this need to be Blink? It's not Blink.
I think because the songs are stupid.
Oh, yeah, there's that, huh?
And whereas like Plus 44, they're not stupid songs. I think if they released this under Plus 44, both Blink-182 and Plus 44 would have gotten hell from the internet. and then it would tarnish both bands' discographies and resumes and all that.
Where Blink is kind of too big to fail at this point, so you can
Yeah.
take that chance. I see.
Yeah. So they make a bad Blink album in 2017, and if it ends up being a bad Blink album, people can say, oh, well, it's just Matt Skiba joining, and it's not really Blink, but it kind of is now, and they're safe.
Mm-hmm. Just to point out a couple other songs on this godforsaken record, 6/8 does actually kind of slap. Like, I know it's like, wow, pat yourselves on the back. You wrote a song in 6/8 and didn't even know what to call it, so you called it 6/8.
That fits for an album named California with songs Los Angeles, San Diego, and California.
But all the more reason it should have been on disc 1. Like, why is this relegated to disc 2?
I felt the same way about Misery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's genuinely better songs on disc 2 that, like, so how did you end up with the 16 that you did? I don't know how they made that choice. Who sequenced that? It was terrible. And Long Lost Feeling actually has some more of that self-awareness I was looking for, even though the song feels unfinished.
I don't even remember it
Exactly.
at this point. Yeah.
And then last thing I'll say, Bottom of the Ocean is a barker. No question. It's some MGK-ass bullshit. I've never heard Travis in Blink-182. Like, heard his fingerprint besides the drumming.
Okay.
This sounds like some shit he'd make with Machine Gun Kelly, and I hate it.
Interesting. You will 100% hear his fingerprints on One More Time. And I'll explain why when we get there.
Oh, wait, no, I know what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it might be more than what you're thinking, too. Because it's not,
maybe? Okay.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you're sticking with him being like this MGK person, because that's...
I know it's reductive. He's one of the greatest drummers ever. He was in the Aquabat. Like, he's cool. But then he
pigeonholed himself by attaching himself to that cart.
Well, and just kind of making a caricature of himself by, like, propping up some total poser and being like, see, anyone can do it, basically.
Oh, so maybe he is the heart and soul of Blink-182.
Maybe.
Any other thoughts on the first match, people? Great.
Fucking move on.
Great. Let's talk about 9. Again, Steve, why is 9 named 9?
Because it's the 9th album, Joe.
Ooh, that tracks after 6/8, San Diego, Los Angeles, and California. Yes, I'm going to say it every time. Awful decisions.
Look, there's a reason I've never heard of this record's existence before. Where is Skiba? Like, I had just said how, like, all the best stuff on California is led by him.
And then
they did even less with him on this one?
Yep.
I have almost nothing to say. I wrote that if this was a plus 44 record, it'd be perfectly acceptable for its midness, but I don't even agree with that anymore.
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, no, like, I really don't. I don't know. I thought Black Rain sounded kind of cool. I don't remember it, but apparently I thought that at the time.
I wrote that Black Rain has more Alkaline Trio in its DNA, which gives it brownie points.
I was going to say that makes it sound cool, because they're not fucking doing anything cool otherwise.
Right. I truly forgot about these songs when I got to 9, and then I heard them, and I was like, oh, yeah, I remember listening to these that one time in 2019 before the world became an endless pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I just don't care to listen to them now. There's some things on here, like Happy Days, that's classic Blink in terms of being all text, no subtext, but it's worse when you're in your 40s.
Yeah.
And it's harder to give them grace, like you were saying before, like, when does that stop? It has stopped on California for me, and they're not earning any of it back here. Mm-hmm. Dark Side, I said, sounds like a Good Charlotte song on Good Morning Revival, which is like kind of a compliment, but I don't think so. I don't like Good Morning Revival. I don't know. As I grow older and I continue to be creative, I really hope I don't fall into the tropes that they fell into.
That's such a good point.
And it worries me because I don't want to dismiss writing about age and aging and nostalgia and looking back, because that's important and those feelings are valid. Mm-hmm. But when you write the song Blame It on My Youth, where you're cheeky, but it's a butt rock song, mm-hmm. and it sounds like Kids Bop. I think it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like that. So I guess that's the best thing that I can say about 9 is that it makes me just not want to do that.
Yeah.
Which is awful. But I hate
9 works best as a cautionary tale.
Yeah, it does.
As music, not really.
There was one standout thing that I wanted to note on some emo shit. First of all,
Oh my God.
this is another cautionary tale. It encourages me not to follow the basest instincts in bands. To name songs on something we thought was funny in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. I'm sure they were like, yo, let's get on some emo shit. And then they wrote that song and they're like, what do we call it? On some emo shit. Like, that's stupid. I think it could work sometimes, but not all the times. It also feels like after California was so West Coast because it had the songs Los Angeles, San Diego, and California on it. On some emo shit.
They're talking about New York.
They sing about Brooklyn, and you know how they describe it so that you know
The bodega. Yeah, the bodega in Brooklyn. Then there's something about Manhattan. It's that I caught that too. I was walking my dog and I'm listening to it and I'm like, didn't they just do a whole album about California and now they're trying to like ape some New York stuff? Like, what? It's like I get it, you've been all over the world, but like I thought you just did the hometown record, you know? What is this?
Whatever you could say about them, I'll even say through Dogs Eating Dogs. They were themselves.
Yeah.
At that time, they were always themselves. From California into 9, it feels like they're not themselves.
Yeah.
It feels like they're putting on a show. 9 had a ton of songwriters for every song. So it's not even just the 3 of them sitting in a room and writing. It's disappointing. And it was disillusioning for me. But I guess not in a painful way, just because I'm old enough to be like, don't look up to your heroes too closely kind of thing, especially after so long with so many getting canceled and doing awful things.
Yeah.
But it's bad. It sounds manufactured. They derailed after Jerry Finn.
Yeah.
And they just could never get back on. They couldn't figure out how to do it. And they got close-ish. And then they just couldn't maintain. And then 9.
Yep.
Can we move on?
Yeah, please. I got nothing else. I'm glad you had as many notes on that as you did because I have like 5.
I tried. I squeezed blood from a stone for that one.
Yeah, good for you because I couldn't be bothered.
So in 2023, they put out One More Time. And for context of this record, Mark Hoppus is diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma sometime after 9 comes out in 2019. With it being stage 4 lymphoma, that brings Barker in, that brings Tom back in to be like, oh my God, I miss you. I hope you're okay. All these things. And it reignites again the friendship between the 3 of them. And so with that friendship reigniting, they decide to get together at Travis's home studio in California, and they start playing together, which develops into them writing songs together, and they start recording. And they don't tell anyone because look what happened the last time.
Yeah.
It didn't really stick. It sticks, and we get One More Time. Matt Skiba, very, very gentlemanly, leaves the band. Goes back to alkaline trioing because that's what he's best at and that's where he gets to be himself. And One More Time is produced by Travis Barker, which is why I said this is where we get to see his fingerprints.
Yeah.
So he does make a special appearance on this album that never happened before, which is really, really cool, especially for longtime fans of the album. But doing the research for this episode, I was impressed to see that he was the producer.
Yeah.
Because I thought this was the most Jerry Finn sounding album since Untitled. And that's what he actually says. So anytime he has to make a decision in the studio, his production is Finn inspired. He goes, what would Jerry do? And does that. And then we get One More Time.
It's so obvious when you say it out loud that they must be kicking themselves that they never thought of that. To be like, if we want to sound like us and Jerry was the guy who could do it, let's just do it ourselves. Yeah.
So it makes me question how much of a producer Barker was in whatever year that was, 2011, for Neighborhoods. Because he becomes the producer through Your Best Friend, MGK, and he has his little side quest there. But I think cutting his teeth as a producer and doing those things probably built up his confidence to the point where he could go back in the studio with his two friends who made his career literally and say like, hey, you know what? I got this because I know what Jerry would do here. And they want to do that. And they dedicate the album to him too.
Yeah.
What do you think about One More Time? Where does it fall for you?
This is one of the best albums they've ever made.
100%.
Like, again, I looked at that track list. 19 fucking songs. And my heart sank. I was like, am I going to be able to get through this? I really like this record.
It's a great album.
I really like it. It starts with Anthem Part 3. It was like they were speaking to me directly and being like, we're actually back. This is the first reunion record that feels like one. Yes. This is the first one that feels like they had a reason to make it.
Yep.
Neighborhoods felt like an obligation. California and 9 was just trying to keep the ship afloat. This feels like Blink-182. As someone who never cared about them before, I can't believe how happy that makes me.
Right?
Yeah.
I will never listen to California again. I'll never listen to 9 again. I'll listen to this again.
Yeah.
I was so excited. When I finished listening to 9 this morning, I was like, thank God I can get to One More Time because I knew what was coming. I knew it was going to be a good album. I knew it was going to be a long album, but that's what they do. And I knew that I can zone out at the right times, but at the other right times, I'm paying attention and I'm locked in. Tom has never sounded better.
I know. I wrote that down. I was like, why does Tom sound like that? Like almost normal?
Yeah. He sounds powerful here.
Yeah.
I think he's always had a naturally weak and thin voice. This sounds like he's singing from his whole body.
Yeah.
And I love it. He's not angry. He's empowered and impassioned.
This is working how I wanted, or not how I wanted California to work, but like what I identified as the problem with California, that they sound older and wizened, but are aware of it. That this is nostalgic and looking back in a good way. It's reflecting on aging and gets sentimental among the people that you know were actually all together cutting their teeth, you know, like this. And the best part is it's still fun.
Yeah.
They learned.
It's a very fun album.
They learned not to just make everything sad to seem like they're mature. They are looking aging and heartbreak and fear of death in the face and saying, fuck it, let's party while we're here. That's what they're supposed to be. Like,
it's insane that it took them 20 years to realize
I
that.
know.
Before we go song for song,
Okay.
I do want to ask, because I ranked them myself very quickly. How would you rank the anthems now that we have 3 of them?
Musically, 2 is the best. 3, I think it's exactly what it needed to be as a worthy continuation of the anthems, you know, like a new check-in of here's where we are now, you know, here's where we are in life. Here's what we've learned. Here's how our perspectives on life have changed. It is at least as good as 2 as an opening track. Actually, I'd say in a way it's a better opening track than 2 because the album that it opens lives up to the promise of the song. But 2 is probably the most fun. It's the first one's obviously the worst, but I couldn't think of a better way to start this album
Right.
than Anthem Part 3.
When they sing "This Time I Won't Be Complacent," I That's the depth I want from Blink-182. Because
That's
first
all
of
it
all,
takes.
complacent's a big word. And that's one. And two, you're knowing what they're talking about. You know that they're talking about doing this again. They're talking about doing it one more time, but this time they won't do it wrong.
Yep.
And they don't need to tell you that. It's almost like there's something there beneath the surface, beyond just naming your album California and having a song named California on it.
And calling an album that's like a reunion record One More Time could have been a lazy choice until you get to that title track.
Yes, we should talk about that.
Yeah.
So, One More Time. I think I wrote the most about this song of anything. They waited a whole career for Travis to sing.
Yeah.
And they
I knew that was him.
They weaponized the shit out of Tugging on Your Heartstrings with One More Time. It's not like it's I Miss You Part 3. It's not like them trying to riff on it like they did with After Midnight. This is like a dudes rock love song.
Yes.
Because they know how long they squandered the magical chemistry they have over their differences and their egos. And they own it very, very blatantly, which is a sign of maturity to me.
This is the kind of cheesiness that works.
Yes.
Me. Like where I Miss You misses the mark for me. This, yeah, I mean, like you said, we know the story. We've been following them to get here, to get to this point, and like know these things about them and like what their history has been. And it's just, you know, they're still jokesters, and they have been throughout their careers, even on their more serious turns. But it's just nice to hear them get vulnerable again and loving to each other and referencing the things that have like caused them to cherish each other, like the plane and Mark's cancer diagnosis. Like it was the perfect time to have Travis sing for the first time, because it was almost like, and now knowing that he produced it too, it's like, okay, this really feels like they made it together, you know?
Probably more than any other record beforehand too.
Yeah.
I love the way they sing about their issues and their traumas. I wish they told us it shouldn't take a sickness or airplanes falling out the sky. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Simple, plain, beautiful.
And even if you don't know the backstory of it, like, you get the point.
You get it. The one line that I think is like actually beautiful songwriting and harkens back to the melodrama of Untitled. Do I have to die to hear you miss me?
Yep.
That is like, that's a Cure lyric.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Wow, they finally used their Cure love in a good way.
And they didn't have to be out loud. Hey, by the way, we listen to The Cure, right?
Yeah.
Like, they just do it. Man. I think they're truly good musicians when they have the right environment, and the right environment is whatever Jerry did for them. So if the new right environment is Travis doing whatever Jerry did for them, great.
Yeah.
I look forward to One More Time Part 3 or whatever it's going to be called. I'm glad you brought up the humor that they still have, because this is a really sad song. But on Dance With Me, they open with the masturbation joke.
Yep.
Which is like, that's a great
Just
joke.
have fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's such a good one. And you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, Tom's back in the band. Like,
Yep.
I was happy, I think, with the majority of songs on this album.
Yeah.
Even when I wasn't crazy about it, like Fell in Love, I don't like the ole ole ole.
Yeah.
It's annoying, but I don't even care.
It is a good example of them like doing that healthy relationship with nostalgia. I really like More Than You Know, because it's the successful hard rock swing that Los Angeles tried and failed at. And,
Interesting.
And Tom is even doing a pretty good Zach De La Roca on the pre-choruses. Yes.
I thought that was an Untitled song.
Yeah.
Like that was them like trying to go back to that genre of Blink, but I was with it.
Maybe it was just fresher in my mind thinking of how hard Los Angeles failed at doing hard rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrified, I thought was great. I think that might be my favorite song on the album. Everyone heard that when this first came out, and they were like, that's a Boxcar Racer song. And it's like, yeah, but it's a Blink song doing Boxcar Racer genuinely and being like, we can do this. Yeah, Tom, take the reins. We make it dark. And then Mark will support in the right way, and Travis is Travising. The major miss for me was Edging.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, which was their lead single, which to me tells me it was a label choice.
It had to be, because it's probably the weakest song on the whole album.
Yeah.
I think it was picked entirely for its title.
Yeah.
Because it was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how you know Blink's back, because they've got a song that's a reference to masturbating.
But
Like,
I think it could have been a fun song as like a single only for the album with the title edging.
yeah,
You know, like it would make sense thematically and it would fit with them as the joke, but I didn't like it.
no, it was. I remember hearing that it came out, and I remember you talking about it with Nick, our producer that we were working with on our EP or single at the time, whatever it was, and neither of you seemed very happy with
No.
edging when you heard it, and I was like, at the time I was like, fuck Blink-182, I'm not gonna listen to them. I bet if they picked a different song as a lead single, there probably would have been more buzz about their return. But that song was just like too weak to carry how good this album actually is.
Yeah. I even like their song that I think this is what Neighborhoods and Dogs Eating Dogs could have been and should have been. Blink Wave.
Yo, I love Blink Wave.
So Blink Wave is like, I called it Angels and Airwaves inspired, but not an Angels and Airwaves song.
Yes. So I had thought, when we got to When We Were Young and Edging and You Don't Know What You've Got, it started to get a little repetitive and a little bit like, okay, we get it. You guys are looking back on the past. Blink Wave snapped me right back into it because it's an actual new wave song.
Yeah.
When I saw that title was coming up, I was like, what is Blink Wave? And then I hear new wave keys and organs and stuff and synths immediately. That made me laugh out loud because I was like, oh my God, it's a Blink-182 new wave song. And it's good.
And that's why they named it Blink Wave.
Yeah.
That's the kind of title I like when it's on the nose.
Yeah.
Because it's Blink Wave.
Yeah. And there's so much good humor on this. Like, when they do the song Turpentine.
I love that song.
And Tom is mispronouncing it the whole song. He's calling it Turpentine. And then on the very end, he says, Turpentine, fuck. Or whatever he said.
That's great.
That's what I'm looking for.
That's the right humor. That's where they work the best. Which, granted, you can't do on every track because then it will grow old and it'll just basically be like a Weird Al album.
Yeah.
Where it's like parody almost. But there definitely could be more of their personality and stuff all along that's here in waves.
I think I have a hot take. I want to see what you think of this. I think Cut Me Off should have been the lead single.
I think that is a hot take because I can't even remember Cut Me Off.
Okay, it's really fun.
Yeah, okay. I listened to it this morning and I stopped taking notes after Turpentine.
Okay.
And that's because, again, we listened to the deluxe and at that point I was like, I'm pretty chill. I think Childhood came on and I was like, Childhood's not hitting for me. But again, let them have their cake and eat it too.
I thought it was a pretty good closer. I liked the addition of the chiptune video gamey bleeps and bloops at the end because it's just kind of driving home more of that, like calling back exactly what era they grew up in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this deluxe edition probably worked the best for me of all of the ones we listened to because the songs on the album proper are the right decisions.
That is the perfect way of saying it, because I was thinking there's nothing on part 2 that to me makes it better or makes it like Grammy worthy outside of it just being their turn when Foo Fighters and Green Day didn't put an album out this year for a rock album. You know
that's
what
interesting. I thought they put it out because they weren't qualified because they missed the cutoff.
Right, so they put out part 2 to qualify.
Right, to qualify. That's it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because of whatever competition or anything.
Yeah, I think the stuff on the actual proper record is good enough. Part 2 doesn't add anything to make it.
No,
that
it
way,
doesn't.
But that's fine. My only thing is, because it's 8 songs and I don't remember really any of them, but I have a question about No Fun. Is it about growing up or cancel culture? Or conflating the two? Because I would have 3 different interpretations of the song based on the answer.
I don't even know because I don't even remember No Fun.
Because I don't even remember exactly what I was getting at, but from what I remember, it kind of seemed like it was whining about like things you can't say anymore.
Okay.
And I didn't know if it was like, why, because you're older, or because you've got to stick up your ass about cancel culture, or because you've got that cancel culture mindset because you're older.
for pure conjecture, I can't imagine them being upset with cancel culture. I don't think they're cancelable. Mark did the impression of a black dude how many years ago? 30-something years ago. And
30 today.
Right, 30 today.
Right.
And we're still talking about the albums, and we know that it's wrong. And I'm sure if we were like, hey, Mark, this was messed up, he'd be like, yeah, man, I was dumb. And he'd be like, it's dumb. Like, what more do you want someone to know that they did something wrong? And if they're still making fart jokes, Built This Pool is a gay joke of a song, right? And we laughed about it. It's still funny. I think it's because they're not punching down.
Yeah.
I think it's because they're not demeaning.
Yeah.
I think they're using humor in surprising ways, not in hurtful ways.
Yeah, that really is always when it hits the best, is when they're like joking about shitting themselves or jerking off or something, because it's like no one's the target. They're just making fun of themselves. Yeah.
Right. And we're caught. If they're laughing at themselves, we can laugh with them.
Yeah.
I think is the case. If they start laughing at someone else, that's where you become the bully. That's where I think the door to cancel culture opens.
Yeah.
And they don't play that game. Like they can say like, we don't do that. They might make a joke to someone or like mess around and pull pranks, but I don't think ultimately they have like a mean bone in their bodies.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts on Blink before we get into our album rankings?
I went into this thinking it was possible that I could come away from it with a newfound respect and appreciation for Blink-182. But never in a million years did I think I'd feel that for Alkaline Trio.
They would love that.
Yeah.
You said that.
No, like, all jokes aside, I liked more than I thought I would. And even their failures made me look more fondly on their high points in retrospect than I did upon the first listen. Because at the end of the day, you know, they've had a huge influence for better and worse. And some of that comes from their growth through failure and missteps. And isn't that just the way of being human? I think I can admit to myself that I like some Blink-182.
Nice.
I think, not a steady diet of it, but at least I don't have to say I hate them anymore. You know?
That's fair. That's growth.
Yeah. Like the last time I've done a deep dive like this was with Radiohead, where, you know, I had a bunch of friends that were Radiohead fans. I always thought they were pretentious and overrated. I didn't get the hype. So I was like, fine. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I'm going to listen to every single album in order, and I'm going to like tweet my reactions as I go. And I came away from that having Radiohead become one of my favorite bands of all time. Yeah. And just kind of Squidward with the Krabby Patty. Oh, the wasted years. Yeah. But also, you know, maybe I wouldn't have appreciated them at the younger age. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten it or would have been annoyed by it. And there's still some Radiohead stuff I don't like. You know, I could apply a lot of these critiques of like, why don't you just cut that to them? Yeah. Having had already done that years ago, that made me excited to do this for Blink, because I was like, who knows? Maybe I could turn around and end up like really getting it. And I definitely get it. And I like some of it. So that's a pretty good takeaway for me, I'd say. Fair.
I am surprised at how much I have grown past them.
Yeah.
That's my ultimate takeaway from them, is that I would say that they used to fill my cup. I don't think they do anymore. Mm. And I think One More Time can. I think that album, upon revisit, I'll go to that and I'll go, okay, yeah, that's great. Like, that makes me feel the nostalgia I want to feel, and I don't need to listen to Enema for the 500th time. Yeah. You know, I'll go back to Untitled because I think that's a genuinely great record. So that one, like, I'll stick with. But there's ones where it's like, I don't need to hear a lot of these songs ever again. Yeah. And I don't feel like my life will be missing anything. Yeah. I don't think that's something I could have said 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it feels weird to say that because they were so important and so meaningful to me when I was growing up. But at the same time, it feels kind of nice to say it too. Yeah. Because they are themselves and I'm me, and I am more mature than that. And I like that. Like I'm proud of that to some extent.
That's fair. I mean, I grew up with like being obsessed with Nirvana, but I don't find myself listening to Nirvana records very much anymore because like, what am I going to get out of it now that I haven't already? You know, it'd be nice to revisit every once in a while, and I will always cite Kurt Cobain as one of my biggest influences, but like, he's been dead longer than I've been alive, so I'm not going to get anything new from him. So that brings up a good question. Do you want a new Blink-182 album now that we've had One More Time, or is that a good place to just leave it?
I don't think they're gonna leave it. If we're going like brain and heart mode, I don't believe they could stop there because I just they like making music together, and I don't think they should get in the way of that. And I think time has told them over and over they keep getting in their own way of doing what they're good at. This got enough good response that everyone was still giving them the good grace to do it again. So I don't think they're going to stop. I'd be curious to listen to it. I think I'd be excited to listen to it if it was the same environment and setup, where it's Travis producing, it's just the three of them making music. That'd be great. I'd be curious what it'd sound like if Skiba comes on and is doing stuff. That'd be interesting to me, genuinely.
Yeah.
How does Skiba fit into the mix of Blink-182 proper with Travis producing? That'd be cool. If I never get that, I would not be missing anything.
I think I'd rather just have Travis produce an Alkaline album.
Yeah, that'd be cool too.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. I don't even want like Plus 44 to make another album anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Angels and Airwaves is going to put out another album because that's what Tom does.
Yeah, whether you want it or not, it's happening.
Right. And I'm going to listen to that. So if I'm going to listen to that, why wouldn't I listen to a Blink-182 true album?
So that's funny. I'm totally the opposite, where I'm like, yeah, I would be kind of stoked to hear what they would do, what Blink would do next, where like Angels and Airwaves, and that's fine.
And I think that's because we have a different relationship with the band.
Yeah.
Where like I've grown to the point where I'm letting go and I'm detaching, and you just you just listen to them.
Yeah.
And so you have like that intellectual curiosity, whereas I've hit my closure with them.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
All right.
Yeah. But of course, I would listen to it and I would talk about it, just not on this podcast unless Spindrift pays us for it.
So having this episode be your idea and being your half of the challenge that we have for each other about getting someone or getting the other into an artist that they've previously said they don't like.
Yeah.
How does the result live up to what you expected the result to be?
I think I'm less surprised with your very low key appreciating them and more surprised with my moving past them. And so as time wore on and I listened to more and more albums, I was like, oh, this feels weird. Like
Yeah.
I like you feel yourself like maturing in real time. It's like a growing pain, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm less surprised with your being into it because I think we're able to have these good conversations about that, and it's through the conversations and the critique and the like tinkering with it is where we get into this stuff. I'm more surprised at myself, and I think that's a good thing. I'm happy to have surprised myself when Blink has not surprised me for 20-something years.
I think I'm also more surprised that you like them less than me liking them more.
and that's what I was trying to hold off on saying too much in person and off mic before this because I wanted to get your genuine reaction. Because I was ready to move on. I do have to say I am most excited of everything to dive into Bruce Springsteen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I know I'm familiar enough with a few of his albums and his songs just from being an American, but
That's going to be such a different approach too, because he has so much more than Blink. And maybe with the Blink side projects, it's kind of close, but his stuff alone is like, there's so much of it. So I hope we can fit it into 3 episodes. But it's also very much that same thing of recognizing when an artist's heyday was, even if they've had a couple different heydays, and how much weight you give to your interest in new projects. Because, spoiler alert, I don't really care about new E Street Band albums, but when he does something by himself, I'm interested because I want to see what he's going to do, because I don't feel like the E Street Band is providing anything new, whereas he might just do this weird concept album about a stuntman, a former stuntman, or an entire soul covers record or something.
Yeah.
But we will get into all that in a future series.
Should we end on our rankings to see how they match up?
Yes. So do you want to do for each from the bottom and then go 3, 2, 1, say the name, or do you just want to like say what yours is?
Let's do 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Number 10. 3, 2, 1, 9.
We mean 9 is in the album.
Yep.
We both looked at each other. We knew that was coming.
Yeah, that was.
You should have known that was coming too.
Yeah.
Next.
I was gonna make a Inglourious Bastards Hitler like 9999 joke, but like it wasn't. You get the point. The album's terrible. Okay. Number 9. 3, 2, 1. Neighborhoods.
California.
Whoa. Here's why it's not California for me. The deluxe.
And that's why it's California for me, because everything from Kings of the Weekend on.
Through the deluxe? Or through the second disc?
You lost me so hard on that first half of the album, I didn't even care to give you attention on the disc 2.
See, for the completionist in me, I felt like I had to. So I was like, I got to give it a fair shake. And I found myself picking out things I actually liked that Skiba was contributing. Okay. Whereas Neighborhoods, I was bored the whole time.
That's fair. Yep. Cool. Number 8?
Yep.
All right.
3, 2, 1. California. Cat. You like Neighborhoods more than Cheshire Cat?
It appears that way. I was just very, very bored when I was looking through my notes. There was just... I'm not going to say that there's nothing redeemable about Cheshire Cat, but it was just so scrappy and like taped together and whatever that I was like, you're not hitting. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair.
What was yours? I
was California.
Yours was California. Okay, yeah. That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 7?
Yep.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Cheshire Cat. That's when you get in the middle, it's all pretty interchangeable.
It is interchangeable.
Points all stand. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I would not put Neighborhoods that high, but I understand it.
That's fair.
Okay, number 6.
3, 2, 1.
Dude Ranch.
Eating dogs.
Okay. Is that wild that I can't even really remember the 5 songs on Dogs Eating Dogs, and I still like it more than Dude Ranch?
That is because Dude Ranch has Damn It.
Yeah, for Damn It alone, it probably should be higher. But call me crazy, I think I know how number 5 is going to go.
Okay, let's see.
Number 5. 3, 2, 1. Dogs Eating Dogs.
Man, I really like Pathetic. Emo's a good song. What can I say? Josie. We didn't even talk about Josie.
Oh,
Josie's on
there. Josie, yeah. All right, number 4. 3, 2, 1. Take
Enema
off your
of
pants and jacket. That wasn't my number 4. I'm giving you a command. That makes sense that those two would be ranked in a similar place.
And it also makes sense that you'd put yours lower.
Yeah.
So that tracks.
Yep.
Number 3?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
One more time. Let's go.
It's got to be there. It's such a good album. I think I know how the rest of this is going to play out.
Yeah.
Now that we're at 2 and 1.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do 2.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Untitled.
Take off your pants and jacket.
All right.
Okay. That's a choice you made.
That number 2 is
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's fair.
Wait, do you think I have it higher than you expected?
I think it's lower. Actually, no. For you, it's accurate, I think. Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Okay.
And so for number 1, you put Enema of the State?
I did.
Okay.
And you put Untitled.
And I put Untitled, yeah. Which I think based on our conversation today and previously, that tracks for both of us. Those are the albums that it's like, this is where they click the best for us.
Yes.
I'm glad One More Time came in third for both of us.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's earned it.
It was funny, like, I was listening to it and thinking, is this a top 5 Blink album? And then I started putting them in order, and I'm like, it's a top 3 Blink album.
Which is insane because it's come out so late into their career.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you dip as low as they dip for so many years. All right. Any final closing thoughts?
This was every bit as fun and rewarding as I was hoping it would be, and it made the deep dive and endless replaying of Damn It in my head for weeks all worth it.
I'm glad to hear it. I appreciate that I was able to explore it again too, and I'm astonished and pleasantly surprised and happy with myself for where I landed as well. Mm-hmm. That's it for the Blink Files. We don't need to do any more Blink episodes if they release new albums.
No?
Unless Spindrift pays us. So we don't have to get a Patreon and do it for someone to ask.
What if we do our top 10 episode for a year where they release an album and it somehow makes it at least to an honorable mention?
That'd be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it like breaks in the top 10 and whatnot. Yeah, that's fair.
I would be shocked if it made my list, but that would be kind of cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. This has been Filler. I've been Joe.
And I will always be Steve.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Filler. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review this episode to help others find it. For more recommendations and exploration of media we love, go to afterschoolspecial.xyz and follow Filler on Blue Sky. See you next time.